Let's get into the meat and potatoes real quick. So
Yes.
you've done a lot of different experiments in the real estate space. And again, I appreciate you kind of being vulnerable and opening up yourself to the psychological stuff, because I think we definitely need that to talk about that a little bit
Yeah.
more within our community. So I really appreciate that. But don't want to take away from what you've done aside from all those things. You do long-term rentals, short-term rentals. You've kind of done some house hacking. You're telling me you're in the middle of a flip right now. Is that what you're doing? A flip?
I am. Yes.
That's interesting. Okay. So which experiment came first for you?
So short-term rentals, Airbnb came first for me. It was just a way for me to make extra money while I was doing a lot of traveling for work. And I think at the time Airbnb just came out. I had personally used it for myself. And I was like, this is a great idea.
Is this a property you owned?
This was actually an apartment that I was renting out. I was living in Silver Spring, Maryland at the time. And I was like,
rental arbitrage.
Rental arbitrage, yes, sir. And at the time, I was really lucky because they actually allowed me to do it. I know that's, always a touchy subject for people getting into rental arbitrage, but that was my first experience. And I did that for 2.5 years. I did that. I mean, paid for my rent plus some, and vacations and all the above. It definitely wasn't where it is now as far as how Airbnb has grown. But yeah, that's kind of how I started.
So, because I know how I got started into SEO, it was actually someone who came on this show, which shout out to Michael Shogren, I always say that. But for you, was it like you had stayed at one? You're like, oh, this is pretty neat. Because I'll tell you what my first thought was. I'm like, yeah, this is cool, but you're going to have a lot of spotty bookings. Like, that's not consistent, like long-term rent. Until you're in the space, you're like, no, hold on. Like, this is real rent and arbitrage by the day. Like, you're getting like 3 times worth, 3 to 5x time worth what, long-term rentals would be. So for you, what was that? Who planted that seed?
See, okay, again, I love to learn, right? So I spent like 3 months just figuring out, watching all the videos, listening to all the podcasts, whatever that were out there on it. And so I knew my market. I knew I was in a really good market. So I was like, no, this is going to do well. And I just put everything in place. I made it so that it was comfortable for the renters, that it made sense with my communication and my process and how I did everything. I knew I was going to kill, and I did every time. I had to turn people down. That's how many bookings it was.